It's been a long time since I was the leader at a service. When I agreed to do this, I originally thought about resurrecting one of the old services that I had done years ago, and I actually had saved a lot of the bulletins from those. So I wanted to see who might remember some of these gems. We had the road to Shangri-La. All our life's a circle. Promises, promises. The possibilities are endless. 10 rules to live by for those who want to live a positive life, after which I passed out smiley pins, if I recall. The flowers that bloom in the spring, tra-la. And Larry was nice enough to play that song, and I sang it because I was one of the three little maids from school years and years ago. And last but not least, which was actually done on a Thanksgiving Sunday, was Life Lessons from Willy Wonka. But I decided it might be better to turn to a professional. Fortunately, we have access to Soul Matters, which has a lot of services, basically services in a box, and a lot of sermons in there that we are able to share. So I looked through the different themes and thought, with everything that is going on in the world and the fact that we're coming into major holiday season, it'd be good to talk about joy. We can certainly all use a little or a lot more joy in our lives at this time. And this part of the year can be very hard for a lot of people. So this homily is entitled Surprised by Joy and was written by Reverend Julia Hamilton in 2018. Friends, I have become more and more distressed by what I perceive as a serious lack of joy in our day-to-day lives. In my own life, in the reports I hear from you here in this congregation, in other conversations with friends and acquaintances, I hear this longing for more joyful living, but with a sense of despair about how we get from here to there. It's as if we've forgotten something basic about ourselves that we're trying to relearn. I've said it before, but it bears repeating. We are overwhelmed and underjoyed. But why? Why does it seem that joy, true joy, has slipped away from us, has become elusive and rare in our society right now? It's not just that things are hard. Joy and hard times are not mutually exclusive. As the poet William Blake wrote, joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silken twine. Thank goodness that joy is not limited only to those who lead lives of ease. No, it's not the difficulty of our lives that keeps joy at bay. There's something else going on. I want you to think of the last time you witnessed or experienced something you would call joy. Not just happiness, not just contentment or entertainment or diversion, but true and authentic joy. I know I had to think about that, and I couldn't think of a time recently. What made the quality that distinguished that moment, if you did have one? What made it joyful? I know this may sound silly, but one recent example of joy that immediately came to my mind was a video I saw of kids playing with a jack-in-the-box. Watching their faces as they wound the little crank and then nearly fell over backwards with surprise and delight when the puppet popped up, some of the kids clapping and dancing with joy at the experience. There are a lot of these little videos of joy floating around, often featuring little kids or puppies, little beings with a direct line to joy in their lives. We consume them like candy, hungry for more joy in our lives. And then I thought to myself, when have I last felt like a kid with a jack-in-the-box? When have I last been surprised by joy like that? There are two elements that seem to be part of the condition for joy to arise. The first is presence. Being in the moment, in direct relationship with the world, without trying to box it up and save it for later, or evaluate its worth, or review it on Yelp while you are still in the middle of the experience. I think this is why His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, despite his tremendous sadness and hardship that he has witnessed in the course of his life, strikes me as one of the most joyful public figures I can think of. He has spent his whole life practicing mindfulness, the art of being present. And so he can be right here in the room whenever joy shows up. Of course, this also means that you have to be present to the suffering in the moment too. Joy and woe are woven fine. Both can be here with us in the room at once. And that brings us to the second element that I think is a condition for joy. A certain amount of unpredictability, a certain amount of surprise and spontaneity, like the kids with the Jack-in-the-Box. Joy comes from being present when the moment moves outside of your control and takes on a life of its own. When someone breaks into song, when a butterfly lands suddenly on the back of your hand, when a conversation with a friend turns from the superficial and moves into beautiful, uncharted waters. When you stop caring about what time you arrive at your destination and are simply present for the journey. Joy shows up most often when we are present and open to the uncontrollable beauty of life. Joy recedes when we lose touch with the present, when we are so preoccupied with the future, with trying to control where things are going, that we can't see what delights might be popping up right in front of us. Aha, guilty. I have been preoccupied with the future this past year, where we are going, what I have to do to create change, where am I needed next? Things feel out of control and I don't like it. I know many of you have been consumed with worry about where we are headed as a people, as a nation, as a planet. There is a time and place for looking ahead, of course, for casting a vision for the future. Don't get me wrong, the destination is important. Justice won't happen on its own. Peace won't happen on its own. But joy will rise up along the way like flowers blooming alongside the road. You don't have to give up on the destination to allow yourself to enjoy the journey. It is okay to allow yourself to be surprised by joy. Indeed, I think it is the only way that we can survive. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Now, please